I don't know about you, but I love all these crochet patterns with pictures in them. And there's a special technique that we use to put pictures into crochet in terms of changing colour in blocks. And I'm going to show you just how to do it. I'll just show you, here's our little grey bit in the section of purple. If I turn it over, you can see here that I haven't taken the yarn all the way across backwards and forwards. I've just worked with separate pieces of yarn or little bobbins of yarn for this section. Now the reason we do that is that if you're working a big picture or something and you're having to run multiple colours up and down the back, you can change the tension of the piece very much by making it a much thicker bit of crochet. I'm going to show you how to add this little section. What we do if we're going to put a little section of colour in is you need to take some of the yarn colours that you're working with and create little bobbins of colour. Now you can buy little plastic bobbins or very beautiful little bobbins and just wind some of your yarn around, or you can do what I've done here, which is just to use a couple of pieces of paper and wrap my yarn around. The key is to be prepared. I'm going to work along this piece, this little swatch, change colour and then change colour back again. So I'm just working it in single crochet. That's a double crochet if you're in the UK. I've done a little chain one there. So I'm going to sort of work across my little swatch until the moment that I'm going to change colour. Now I'm going to change colour in the next stitch. The rule is always change colour in the stitch, the end of the stitch, before you want it to show. So if you want the colour, like we do in this case, to show here, we're going to start this stitch here. So I'm going to put my hook in and pull up a loop, and now I'm going to change colour into my grey yarn using this little bobbin. So instead of pulling through the last two loops with this purple, I'm going to do it with grey. So I'm just going to sit the loop over the hook like that and pull the grey through these two pinks. There we go. And there is the grey yarn, so that when you work this next stitch, it's going to come up grey. Now to avoid any holes in the work, just make sure you tuck the new yarn underneath the old colour. So can you see? I'm actually just tucking the grey yarn underneath the pink. And then I'm going to pull the grey yarn through, two loops on a hook, yarn over and pull through both, and I'm going to carry on working with the grey across this section. Now when I get to the point where I'm going to change back to the purple, I'm going to get my little bobbin ready, which is over here. And I'm going to change colour in the next stitch, and we do that by working the stitch until you have your final two loops on the hook, and then I'm going to pull it through with the pink. There we go. So now we've changed onto the pink yarn, and to work the next stitch, just make sure that your new yarn, your new colour, sits underneath the old colour, and that secures it neatly so that you're not going to get a hole in the work. So I'm going to come along and work to the end of the row. I'm going to turn and chain one. So here, and you can see like what I'm doing is I'm just straightening up my bobbins. That looks a bit of a mess, but I can see what I'm doing. Put your bobbins in the right place so that they don't get twisted. So my grey one is here in the middle. Right, so we're at the stitch where we're going to change colour from pink to grey. So I'm going to work into the beginning of the stitch and pull up a loop. Now I'm going to change to the grey, which is using the bobbin here, but I don't want this pink yarn to be stranded up the front. So I'm just going to bring it back to the back of the work, and then I'm going to make sure that I take it underneath the grey and then pull the loop through the grey, and then we've secured that yarn at the same time as changing colour. So I'm going to go now through the little grey rectangle. We've got this little grey section. Okay, so we need to change back to pink. So we're going to put the hook in and pull up a loop, bring the grey yarn to the back, and we're going to bring this pink yarn to the front, pull through and carry on working in the pink. There we go. And so we work to the end, and I'm going to turn, and this is a point where you really need to stop and reorganize your bobbins, and you need to do this every couple of rows so that everything is not all tangled. If you don't do this, because it happens as a consequence of changing colour, it's nothing that you're doing wrong. If you don't do it, it can get so tangled, and you need everything to be in the right order from when you start the next row. So I'm just going to do one more row with you now. Chain one, and then work our single crochets across the row. And then this is the point at which we're going to change to the grey yarn. So I'm going to work into the stitch before, yarn, hook into the stitch, pull up a loop, and then we're going to switch over to the grey yarn that's attached to the bobbin. So pick up your grey yarn and use that as the last stitch. Pull it through, and you've already changed to grey, and then you can carry on working the rest of the row. So that's how you change colour with bobbins in the Intarsia method. So now you've learnt how to change colour using the Intarsia method in your crochet, and that means you can create pictures of absolutely anything on cushions, pillows, blankets and sweaters. So tell me, if you could put a picture of anything into a jumper or a sweater, what would it be? Tell me in the comments. Any picture you like. Cats, dogs, puppies, hearts, and we'll see if we can make a chart just for you. Happy crochet!